as a 10-foot tall Bigfoot, can you shapeshift into a 2 or 3 inch foot Bigfoot? And maybe that's where they're hiding. They're just coexisting with the little people underground when they're not around, and just only appear big when they need to be. I'm kind of throwing that out there. That's just a theory.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Well, I just, halfway, I think, probably answers Norman's question. It is a possibility, that they could, again, we don't know about Bigfoot. They could shapeshift into other creatures, too. So, hey.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we learned so much, just like I said, I got into this with a whole different set of parameters or a whole different set of ideas in the beginning. I thought I was looking for an ape-like being that kind of looked like a human that was running around the forest, and we're trying to figure out what they eat and where they were sleeping and stuff like that. And as the more I researched it, the more it delved into more strange paranormal, more UFO-ish type of stuff, portals, and the orbs started appearing. I mean, and it just continues in that direction.
Now, what you were telling me before we went on the air about the tunnels and the car and all that stuff and the portal and going in and out and all that, we got only a few minutes. Boy, time is going fast with you. You want to elaborate a little bit about that?
Yeah, maybe at some point I'll do the best I can. It says one of our campout. One of the things that I have discovered, because I've had experiences with the portals and in different things, and I was keeping track of the timeline, the timeline when these things would happen. There was a huge frequency of this stuff happening in October and September time range every year. Things happen around that time all the time, certain specific things that would happen. And then I started researching ley lines, the ones that originate, the energy lines that originate from the pyramids. And you can go on Google Earth, and there's an overlay map that you can actually see the different lines, where they go. Well, there's one of these energy lines go through, like the Bermuda Triangle, for instance, is a convergence of a whole bunch of those lines. So it's what they call Lake Michigan's Triangle, which is similar to what happens in Bermuda. It also is near a convergence of a bunch of those energy lines. And I don't have to really go over what happened in Bermuda, because we know about all the stories of disappearances and strange events that happen. Well, these things are replicated in different places. Crater Lake is another example of strange activity that's happened there, things disappearing and coming back later. So fast-forwarding that story, there's that one of those lines go up through Washington. A couple of them do. The one that runs near where we're living right here in the cabin it runs parallel to our highway. It's only out by about 4 miles from us. That line also crosses over on the other side of the mountain across a lake called Bumping Lake. And so that line, I was suspecting that these portals, since I've seen the portals open up, might be using the energy from these ley lines to amplify themselves, and hence that's why they're located along here. So this one crosses Bumping Lake, and we happen to be camping right on the ley line. And I wasn't camping, but one of my friends was with Anita and myself. We were at the Field of Dreams, our other area, playing drums, Indian drums and everything at night. And a light appeared in the creek, and I showed my friend, see that light down the creek? And when he looked, he saw a little Bigfoot or a little man or a little person jumping up and down. He was kind of green glow to him, and then finally disappeared. Well, he went to this camp out that we had at Bumping Lake, and it was right smack in the middle of September. And I said to Anita, I think I even said to him, I said, "You're going there." And I had to go to a trip back east, so I couldn't go. I said, You're going right on the ley line. You're going right at the time frame when the right time period when things happen. Expect things to happen. Well, sure enough, he goes there, and he's hearing all sorts of stick knocks and everything earlier in the day. And he's in his Jeep. He's parked there with another person that's just 30 yards away, and about everything goes dark, so it's about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And prior to that, he saw a big black figure standing by the other car and figured it was a Bigfoot, but didn't get out of his car. It was very black, about 3 o'clock, and all of a sudden, the light started appearing around his driver's side and around his front window shield. It started opening up light, but it stayed dark on the passenger side of the window and all the other windows. All of a sudden, he found himself, at that time period, he was inside of a warehouse. It looked like a workshop. It had a flatbed truck. It had cars that looked like they were from the 50s, 60s, 70s era in there, and some workbench. So obviously, he thought maybe it might have been one of the Forest Service sheds or something, or warehouses where they did work, you know. But what was interesting was the time frame. It looked like it was something from the 70s, obviously. But that lasted for about 5 to 6 seconds. I think you told me about 5 to 6 seconds. And then it went black again. It just faded out and went black, and he's thinking to himself, oh, well. It must have been, he's wide awake, so he's not sleeping or dozing off or dreaming any of this stuff. So because he's sitting there eating popcorn, having a Coke, watching this stuff. How appropriate, having a show and eating popcorn in his Jeep, which I think is kind of hilarious. Well, it stays dark, but not very long. He's mulling over his mind if he's just hallucinating about it. But then all of a sudden, the light comes back up again. He finds himself in a completely different forest with boulders around the Jeep. And now the scene lasts longer, and now he's getting a little bit scared about it because he doesn't know where the heck he is. He was in our campground initially, finds himself in a warehouse. Then he finds himself somewhere else, located, teleported somewhere else in his Jeep. He's seeing all the scenery, and finally things fade out, and then it goes black. But the interesting thing, before any of this happened, he looked up in his rearview mirror right before these events started happening. He started seeing this little glow thing. He looked, and it was kind of out of focus, but it was the same little beam that we saw down in the creek appeared in his rearview mirror. He looks back behind his car, and it's not back there. It's in the rearview mirror, somehow being reflected through there.
Oh, wow.
And he stays there all night long. I believe that little being had a connection with helping open up the portal.
Wow, that would be so scary. I would be terrified, actually.
The next morning, it'd be one thing if he just relayed the story, but he didn't say anything just yet. But then the little boy who was staying in the other car was saying what he saw last night. He doesn't make up stories. He says, at 2 o'clock in the morning, I was looking out of my car, and I saw 2 tunnels in the woods. One of them had a bunch of stuff that he was familiar with, things out of his life. The other tunnel, he looked down, and he saw what he looked like an older version of him during a graduation, like a high school graduation. And this boy is only 8 years old. So when my friend heard that, it was like he had to come forward and say, I've experienced something too, and they were kind of facing each other like that.
Now, a question, Samantha, has anybody else in that area encountered anything like that? Have you checked on it to just, see if other people have encountered strange things like that, like a portal's open, time, going back in time, going forward in time, ending up a completely different location?
Yes, because we have several researchers that go. One fellow goes there and has had strange experiences, and it's high UFO activity is happening there. We went out there a couple of years beforehand and found several thousand footprints along the whole lake that appeared overnight, and castings were made of it. Some were Bigfoot, some looked human. So there's all these. I have been researching more of this, but I haven't heard about an event like this in particular. But I will tell you that during that night and all the going-ons, large log structures were formed during the night, and he woke up in the morning and all of a sudden here's these large interlocking logs that form A's and X's and things up in the air and right in that general vicinity.
Yeah, and to do that, it would have made a lot of noise too. So I mean, that is
during the midday it did, and all this stuff was built, and my theory, and I finally come up with the theory, was that if you want to activate one of these portals, which I think are static throughout the Earth, is look for the ley line and find an area to activate it. You got to find the portal along the ley line. You got to find the right day, time, and year when it's going to be activated. And I think it has to do with to activate it, you have to have a certain energy pattern to activate the portal so that it opens up. I think that Bigfoots and all these other beings have the ability to emanate those energy patterns. I think it can be done artificially. I actually have, based on some experiences I know with a certain individual, they activated a portal by going down to the Oregon, the Oregon Vortex. The Oregon Vortex, which is and by going down, there's some kind of energy attached to their bodies that allowed them to go to this other area and activate the portal and open it. It was only until they went to that certain area and hung out a little bit and came back to the other area they were able to activate it. So I think you can actually put a little juju on you from certain energy. But I also know that you can use artificial generated energy that can be used to activate these portals as well. And I've been working with someone who actually, I know someone personally that used his device to open up this other portal.
The only thing is, I'd be scared to death if you open up a portal and you went into it to investigate what happens if you can't come back.
Well, I'd be content with just seeing it open so I could see through it, not much trying to walk through it.
Well, there's always going to be somebody that would try to walk through it, and you know.
No, I know. I try to be a little bit, and I hesitate to try to. I'm trying to learn as much as I can without disappearing through one.
Well, yeah, that's a good way to lose your family and everything else you own.
Yeah.
But, you know, it scares me is the people, like in the national forest, so many of them have disappeared. And, you know, like I mentioned to you once before, maybe they fall off a cliff, fall in a river, you know, and or get shot by a deer hunter, you know, but not as many people that have disappeared. I'd always wonder, you know, if they stumbled into a portal, walked in it, and that's how they vanished.
Well, when you take some examples of how a little boy that just walks right behind his parents in one of those forests disappears and then the body shows up way on top of a mountain in a very short period of time, there's no way possible for it to got up there, 3 miles up a mountain. I mean, you got stories like that.
Oh, yeah.
And, David Paulides talks about that, not about how they happen. He just documents the actual disappearances,
And it's so many.
But I do feel that a lot of those can be attributed, the ones that can't be explained can probably be attributed to accidentally walking through portals. I think there's ones that exist in the forest that the Bigfoots, as guardian of the forest, help keep humans away. Sometimes when you have these reports of the Bigfoots trying to keep people away from certain areas, it might be for their own good.
Oh, yeah. Hey, our time is gone. I do want to invite you back in December because we're going to be talking about this subject all month long about Bigfoot, giants, little people, and stuff like that. I'd love to have you back on for like maybe 2 hours.
Oh, yeah.
And that would be awesome. And why don't you tell everybody how they can find you, the website and all that stuff before I let you go?
Okay. You can go, I do have a regular blog site called planetsasquatch.com. You can also go to Facebook, and I have just search for Planet Sasquatch, and it'll be the first group that shows up that you want to select. And also a YouTube channel. It's also under Planet Sasquatch, where I have 70-plus videos available at this point.
Okay, and you mentioned you're writing your second book. Is there a book available that if you want to plug it, you got about 1 minute to do it?
Okay, you can actually go to Amazon and just search on Amazon. Go and look for. You can either type in my first name, Samantha Richie, and it'll come up with The Sasquatch: Journey Through the Veil. And that's how you'll find that book.